Yes, y'all most welcome to our channel once again. And this is our second episode on our video series What You Should Know About Copyright. In our previous episode, we saw what music copyright is, the types of music copyright and when music copyrights are created. If you missed out or if you're not sure about any of these, then you can go check out our first episode so that we can move on at the same pace. So in this episode, we are to look at the 6 exclusive rights held by copyright owners. These rights we are about to look at are the rights that help generate royalties when they're licensed over to other parties. So these rights are the ones that help music professionals to make money and also protect their original work. So, the first right is to reproduce the copyrighted work. How does this work? This right gives the copyright owner the right, or the permission, to reproduce the copyrighted work via printing CDs or vinyl, and make the work publicly available via streaming services. So, technically, every time a listener presses play on a specific song on a streaming service, they are triggering a reproduction of the sound recording, aka the master, and the underlying musical work, or the composition. So, streaming services like Spotify, Apple Music, SoundCloud, YouTube and others must have licenses from copyright owners to reproduce any songs in their catalogs. And here master copyright owners receive compensation via streaming payouts, while composition owners receive mechanical royalties. The second right held by copyright owners is to prepare derivative works based upon the copyrighted work. What is a derivative work? A derivative work is any musical work that includes major copyrightable components of the previous, or the original work. So, only the copyright holder of the musical composition can legally create a derivative version of the work, or permit others to do so. So, if a third party wants to create a derivative work of a composition or master recording, they will require either a synchronization license, that's from the composition side, or a master use license, from the master side. Generally, the sync and the master use licenses are negotiated one-on-one between the copyright holders and the licensing parties, or their respective representatives. Another right, that's right 3 held by copyright owners, is to distribute copies of the copyrighted work to the public. Just as copyright protects the author's right to create new copies of the composition or recording, it also gives copyright holders the right to sell these created copies to the public. However, in the modern age, the right to distribute the sound recording is covered by streaming payouts or streaming services like Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube Music, etc., while the distribution of compositions occurs only if the composition itself is distributed and sold, for example, sheet music sales. The fourth right is to perform the work publicly. The copyright also provides the author an exclusive right to perform the work publicly. However, this doesn't only apply to a living person performing the work, but also to any kind of an audio broadcast in a public space. Live shows, performances, music playing in public spaces like bars, or clubs, radio, or TV broadcasts, and even audio streaming on Spotify are all considered public performances here. It should also be noted that these performance rights are one of the biggest sources of revenue for songwriters and publishers. However, for recording artists to receive performance royalties, it depends on their country. That is to say, in most of the world, performance rights exist for both the composition owners and master copyright holders. However, in some countries like the US, the public performances don't generate royalties for master owners. And if the recording created by a US resident is played on a radio, let's say in UK, still it doesn't generate royalties. Hope you understood that very well. The performance rights for recording artists are also known as neighboring rights or related rights. The fifth right is to perform the copyrighted work publicly by means of a digital audio transmission. This right is also known as the digital performance right. Basically, this right functions like the neighboring rights in the US. But this one only applies to digital services like Pandora and SiriusXM or webcasts and not to traditional radios, or any other type of public performance. This means that recording artists in the US will only earn performance royalties when their music is played on digital radios. This right is specific to the US and a few other countries, and it was designed to counterweight the lack of neighboring rights when it comes to digital radio. Right number 6 is to display the work publicly. This is a less used right held by copyright holders. This right is more applicable to works of visual art, and it accounts for a minuscule part of the actual royalties generated. The right can be more relevant if, for instance, a label or any brand wants to print out a song's lyrics, that is to say, a part of a composition, or when a music streaming service wants to display lyrics to its users. In this scenario, a printout license must be acquired, which is typically inexpensive. One should also know that the print rights don't apply to sound recordings, which can't really be displayed. So, basically, every type of royalty in the music industry can be traced back to one of the exclusive rights we've talked about in this video. That is to say, the mechanical royalties are generated by right number 1. Sync licensing and the master use fees compensate both sides for the second right. The public performance royalties are compensating composition owners for right number 4, and so on. So, whenever an artist gets paid, copyright is operating behind the scenes to make that happen. So, those are the 6 exclusive rights held by the copyright owners. But, before I forget, in our next episode we'll be looking at the 6 basics of the music copyright law. So, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, then subscribe, so that you don't miss out on our next episodes. And maybe don't forget to comment below with your thoughts. Thank you for watching. Bye.
International.